Welcome to the Ryan Frank Podcast. Ryan is a family man, first and foremost, but he's also a pastor, publisher, and serial entrepreneur. This podcast will help you think, work, and create like never before.
Welcome to the Ryan Frank Podcast. This is Ryan Frank, and thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm excited about my conversation with Carl Barnhill, the creator of 1230 Media. Today we talk a lot about video technology. You know, there are a lot of discussions around AI and video technology and social media and how our lives are impacted by all of these technologies. But when's the last time you really stopped to slow down to think about how the four walls, those sacred walls of a church, are impacted by video technology? And if there's anybody that understands how to leverage video and production to enhance a ministry, it's Carl Barnhill. Carl Barnhill is the creator of 1230media.com. He's a dear friend of our ministries, and he has so much to say on this topic. In my conversation today, we talk about best practices when it comes to video technology, how to use video technology to deepen relationships within a church, to better market or let people know about your ministries and what you have to offer, and how to ultimately spread the gospel and advance the kingdom. It's a wonderful conversation. Whether you are a church leader or a marketplace leader, I know you're going to be blessed as you listen into my conversation with Carl Barnhill. Thanks for watching the podcast. Again, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening, I want to thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for your attention. It is a blessing to come to you every week. You know, in between podcasts, we can stay connected on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Lemonade. Wherever you're at on social media, there's a good chance that I am there. So let's make sure we're staying connected on social media every day throughout the week. And thank you again for the time that you're giving today to this podcast. I believe it's going to help you be a better leader. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Here is my conversation with Carl Barnhill. Hey, what's up, Carl? Man, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So Carl and his team, I just am so grateful for them. They are wonderful ministry partners and friends, and they have really helped kind of relaunch the Ryan Frank podcast. Y'all are doing the production on this stuff for me and doing a great job. And we were talking right before I pushed record on the podcast that you guys are staying busy these days. God's blessing you with a lot of growth.
We are a lot of folks are coming to us, which is great, but there's also growing pains of finding the team to take on the work and stuff like that. So, but I would definitely rather have, and I know you would, I'd definitely rather have a lot more work than we can handle and have that problem than not enough. So just so grateful and blessed with what the Lord is doing and humbled by it.
Exactly.
Getting to work with great folks like you and others, this is super humbling.
Yeah. Well, it's a blessing, and you know, we love you guys, love your team. So Carl, I mentioned as I was setting up the podcast conversation today that you lead 1230 Media. Tell us about 1230 Media. How did you get this idea? How did it start? I'd love to hear a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, so I actually started my ministry career at a place called Precept Ministries, which is a lady named Kay Arthur. Her ministry, she writes books and does Bible studies and stuff. So I came on as a junior editor on her TV show. And then within about 6 months to a year, my boss left. We had a team of maybe 10 or 15 people. My boss left and his boss left. And so I found myself within a year of kind of starting my ministry career over a whole team of creatives, all of them older than me. a lot older than me. And so I learned very quickly, kind of how to do that, where to fall flat and all that. So that's kind of where it started for me.
I didn't know that was part of your story.
Yep.
Well, Kay Arthur is an amazing woman of God and teacher.
Yep.
Yeah.
Real deal.
Yes.
She was amazing to work with and work for. But I directed and produced her television program.
Okay.
And then we had a team that did it. So I would review and approve the show, and it went out to like 100 million people. Literally,
how old were you
crazy.
when you were doing this?
I was early 20s.
That's crazy. That's a pretty big job for a 20-year-old kid.
Yeah. In fact, it was weird because I was kind of doing it as a Band-Aid, because these two folks had left. Two guys had left, and so I was kind of band-aiding it for a while, and then I kind of went to them like, either give it to me or don't. Like, let me either you want me in this job or not. And they're like, we want you. So I stayed there, and so I served there for a while, and then I went and we got married around that time, and then my wife and I moved to Mississippi and served a large church in Mississippi there. And I did two things. I led the entire. This was a church of like 20 or 30,000 on a Sunday.
Okay.
5 campuses when I was there, 4 or 5. And so I was in charge of the live production at the main campus, and in charge of recording the preaching and sending that out. Now, back in the day, there was less video back in the day. So we had to record it and actually put it in like, the nuclear football on a hard drive, 2 hard drives, and then physically drive it over to another campus.
That's awesome.
And hook it up while they're singing the worship songs, and then play
and praying to God that nothing glitches, right?
Yeah, we had a light system, like turn it out of the chorus, please. While we were hooking stuff up. So craziness. But so I was kind of in charge of all of that live production and the volunteers and the live environment, as well as content. So I would make all the video stuff and graphic stuff for the sermon series and the testimony videos. And I ended up saying, like, this is too much. You got to split me in half. So then I kind of fell into the content creation.
Okay.
So then I served there for a few years, and then I went to New Spring Church in South Carolina, a large church, and did live production there. So I had one campus. So I was in charge of. Did you know that? You didn't know that?
I didn't. So Perry Noble was probably the pastor then.
It was. Yeah, that is accurate. And I went through all of that.
Okay, so that's crazy. So what years were you there?
So I was there.
Reason why I'm asking.
Yeah, I was there. I left in 2015. So I was only at New Spring 2 or 3 years.
Did you ever rub shoulders with Cody Breidenbach?
Yeah. Yep. I knew Cody. Cody helped with the rebrand of New Spring. And I actually had him on. He was one of the first guests on my podcast, I believe. Like first.
Did you know that Cody? Cody's first job out of college was working for Kids Matter. I don't know if he ever told you that or not.
Yeah. No. Wow.
But yeah, as soon as he graduated his senior year, he came right over here to Kids Matter and worked for us for, I think, 2 years.
Wow.
And helped us with the rebrand of the magazine at the time. And he's great
at branding.
Genius.
I haven't kept in touch with him. I don't even know if he'd remember me, but yeah, I remember him. And so I served there and then left in 2015 to start. So I went the long way around, but I wanted to give that as background to me serving in the church and seeing the need for video, great content for the church, because I was at 2 mega churches, but I kept thinking, I'm one guy for 5 campuses, and this is a huge load on me. There's no way a church of 200 people can afford a guy like me, or have any reference to how do we do this media stuff. And so that's where 1230 Media came from, is a call from the Lord to serve a bunch of churches with great media content that they wouldn't get otherwise. So that's where a lot of our custom stuff comes from, is serving churches that we're a fraction of the cost they could go hire a full-time guy, but they probably don't have the budget for it. We're a fraction of the cost to get things done. So,
and just a little plug for 1230 Media. I mean, you guys are helping me with the production on the Ryan Frank podcast. You guys are helping with production of our main stage sessions at the Kids Matter conference, and you do a great job. You know, you've got so many of your kids ministry resources over at kidsmatter.com. You know, we're working together through the year on different initiatives. I have you guys help me with different projects from time to time. Y'all do a wonderful, wonderful job. And so keep up the great work. Curious, before we jump into the content, where did 1230 Media get its name?
Yeah, so 1230 came from Mark 12:30.
Okay.
So it's a Bible verse, and Jesus was asked what the greatest commandment was, and he talks about loving God and loving people. So the point behind it is a creative way of saying, let's keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
Here's what I mean. I can help you, our team can help you create excellent videos, excellent design work, which is what we focus on is your church visuals, the graphics and video. We can even point you in the right direction when it comes to the media aspects, live streaming and those sorts of things, how to do that. But at the end of the day, if we're not seeing life change happen, I want to pack it up. Like I don't, it's about life change through salvation and discipleship in the local church. And so that was a reminder to us and is a reminder to our team that it's ultimately about seeing life change in the local church. It's not cool for the sake of being cool or a graphic or a video that looks cool. That's not the point. The point is we want to move them closer to Jesus.
I love it. That's it. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
Carl, let's jump in. You're a student of technology and, you know, trends. And I know you and I offline, we're friends. You know, we'll text each other about, have you seen this app? What do you think about this? Yeah. Normally it's me asking you questions. If you notice that, Carl, very rarely do I get a tech question from Carl because Carl knows 10 times more about tech than me. Normally it's me asking Carl something and he's gracious and we'll respond. Carl, you're a student of technology and trends and you run a video, you know, design production company. What are some trends, especially in the area of, let's say, video technology?
Yeah.
What are some trends that you're seeing that are happening that you think church leaders need to know about?
Well, right now, in this moment in time, AI is the trend.
Yes.
So, and it hasn't fully gotten to video yet. There are some video apps that I can mention, but AI everything right now is the trend. Now, and I just recorded a podcast earlier this morning that and we actually said, you know, if we don't get this podcast out in the next 30 minutes, it's already past, it's already a moot point as fast as the tools are moving in AI right now. But as far as trends, ChatGPT for text, Midjourney for imagery, and then there's other apps like Opus Clip, which is a video clipping app, AI software. Autopod is another trendy app that's out right now about clipping your podcast, like it will, or an interview. It's crazy. Like you give it 2 or 3 camera shots and it will edit everything for you.
Isn't that crazy?
It's absolutely insane. But yeah, those are some apps right now. But I would say, as far as video goes, motion graphics is probably the most current trend as far as like styles or whatever.
And what do you mean by motion graphics?
Yeah, I mean, there's a program called After Effects. So if you are is kind of the main motion graphics. What I mean by that is like let me give you an example. If you're watching a football game at Thanksgiving, the you know, the opening the opener, you know, now it's Monday Night Football, and then the lower thirds, all that is motion graphics content. So it's all digital produced content, meaning it's not a footage or shot-based thing. It's digital assets and digital content. So like your podcast and my podcast, we create a digital open.
Yes.
And with a voiceover and with text and with motion graphics elements and lower thirds, all those are motion graphics elements.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I know the focus of our conversation is going to be more on the video stuff, but I'd like to come back real quick to AI.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's like, I've heard too many horror stories about AI, or AI, is evil. AI, isn't for me. What would you say to somebody like that?
The best analogy I've heard on AI right now is my friend Kenny Jang has put it like this. I want to give him credit for this because it's really good. Think of AI as like a ministry assistant or like an intern graduate, right out of seminary.
Yeah.
Okay. This person, say if you handed them your sermon and said, I need a list of small group questions, or I want you to put this in a blog post, or I want you to create emails, they're not going to be perfect the first time.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be hang on a second, let me tweak that theology a little bit. Okay, now go. Or hang on, that's not said in our brand voice. That's not how our church would say that. Now go. Things like that. So I think that's probably, yes, there are some dangers with it. There's some biases with it. There's some things that we need to be careful of. But I would say it's a tool that we can use. So if you treat it like a high-powered assistant, that you can tweak stuff, I think that's probably the best use of it in ministry.
Yeah,
right now.
I think so too. I know I'm using it every day. Carl, you are. I've talked to you about that. And yeah, definitely is a great tool. And one thing is for sure, no matter what you think about it, it's not going anywhere, is it, Carl?
No.
I mean, it's
only moving faster, actually.
It's only moving faster. That's it. All right, let's circle back to video technology. What do you see churches doing right when it comes to video stuff? I mean, how can a church use video? I guess maybe you could even speak to business leaders or marketplace leaders, but how could we use videos to enhance what we do, whether it's on the weekend, if you're a business leader during the week, or even to reach a larger audience? What do you see churches doing well?
Well, if you're not using video, you're behind.
That's a good point. And we don't want to assume everybody is. Yep.
Right. And so for instance, if you're doing a podcast, you probably need to quickly move to video. Yes. Back in the day, a podcast was just considered an audio listen form. But right now, we're on video right now. Your logo behind you says podcast. It's a podcast.
Yeah.
You can pull the audio off, but I'll always use video.
Yes.
So if you're not using video, you're behind in every aspect. I mean, this is on your screens. I go to a church that just added multiple screens in their environment that are like in the audience. I mean, if you're a ministry leader or business leader, if you're not using video on social media or through your emails or through everything that you do, video, the stats on video are through the roof.
Yeah.
You need to be using it. Now that's not to say that you need to ride every trend or do everything that everybody else is doing. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I can say that I'll challenge you with this. If you walk into a room and there is a TV on, watch the people's eyes or body language when you walk into that room and see if they don't stop and look at the TV. Yes. It's just we're kind of wired to like, oh, something's going on there. And kind of mesmerized by it.
That's a good point.
It grabs attention. And so yeah, I would say if you're not using video, you're behind. But I can kind of go.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go through a worship experience and talk about a few ways?
Yeah, okay. That'd be great.
So I would say for pastors and kids leaders, I know you serve a lot of kids ministry leaders.
Yep.
So in your pre-service, you definitely want to be using video if you can. So not just still static slides. You want to use video. Now, this could be footage of your church. It could be a promo video for VBS or whatever you have going on. It could be a commercial. It could be a game. It could something. Put video on your screen in pre-service. Your countdown is another area that if you use a countdown to bring people to the point of a beginning of your service, I think that countdowns sometimes are real estate that we don't use enough. I mean, like, if you're a kids ministry leader, put a game in your countdown.
That's a good point.
Or purchase a countdown from us or somebody else that has a game in it, to where it's interactive. Or add a promo in your countdown. Like, if you're a church service, a big church, the last minute, everybody's sitting right there. You have their attention. Put a promo of your next big thing, your men's conference, how to sign up for small, like whatever that is, put it right there. So countdowns. Motion backgrounds is another area you could use. The trend right now is actually more just kind of black with white text.
Yes.
But that is an area. Sermon bumpers is another area. Lyric videos is another one. And then environmental projection would probably be the last one I would mention, of LED walls with stuff behind it or stuff moving. That's kind of where motion backgrounds have gone. Is like, I have a LED behind me with some moving things with the static lyrics on the side.
Gotcha. Boy, that's good stuff, Carl. A couple of thoughts or questions as you were punching through that list. Your thought on the importance of quality, production, post-production versus, TikTok style, maybe your YouTube style, where it's just like a phone grabbing stuff and shooting it up there. How important is the post-production quality, in your opinion, for church leaders?
I think that there is a time and a place for both. So I think you need to determine what you want. Now, do your visuals matter? Yes. And if it is a church service, I think that is an area that the visuals really, really, your production value needs to be higher.
Yeah.
Because if you have visitors come in and it looks very, very subpar on your big screens, it's going to be a turnoff.
And the sound is crappy and you can't hear it. Yes.
Correct. All of that really, really does matter. Now, your social media content is a place where your pastor can just use his iPhone and do a quick morning devotional. Very forgivable. We know what that is.
That's a good
point. Shoot it out there. In fact, it's actually more relational and more real, authentic if they don't do it as produced. So I would kind of, there's places for both of those styles.
I agree. That's a great answer. What about, so you helped us, you talked through some things that you'd love to see a church doing on Sundays. What about during the week? What about between Sundays? Do you feel like, as a church in general, we're doing a good job using videos and leveraging, technology, especially video kind of stuff during the week? Do you feel like we could do better? Thoughts on that?
I think we could do better. I am seeing some churches that are using it very well. But I would say the main point there is a lot of the questions we get are, I don't know what to post. I don't know what, and my response usually to that is, you are a content machine. Like, pastor, you're preparing a 30 to 45 minute sermon every single week. That is a treasure of content. That now with AI tools, I mean, you can record that sermon, dump it into an AI software. It will chop it up into small segments. If you video record, even better. And then that you could also turn it into blog post, emails, social post. I mean, that alone is a gold mine of content. Your research notes. Let's say you have some or additional study. Like if you have stuff that didn't make it into your sermon, like as a staff member, as a content creator, I would go to the pastor and give me that stuff too, because we can use that. Like maybe there's a post every day from the church account that's like for deeper study.
Yes.
And then we can, so I would say in general, churches are doing a pretty good job. I would say what they really need to focus on is the content. Is don't think I got to create everything new. Repurpose the stuff that you do have in as many ways as you can.
I agree 100%. I think we overthink it. Two things. One, I tell pastors, I think you would agree with me on this, Carl. Yes, put your Sunday morning sermon, put it on the website. That's great. But if you want to reach 100 times as many people, break that thing into clips and sprinkle it out through the week on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all of these other social networks. I also, I get frustrated sometimes because I think churches, they limit it to, we put our Sunday morning service online on the website and we think we're done. Not only do you have content, Carl, in that Sunday morning sermon, but I'm thinking of my church. We have 10 adult Sunday school classes happening where there are teachers every week preparing lessons. That's gold in that content.
That's right.
And then you've got what the youth pastors preaching on Wednesday night to the teenagers.
That's right.
And the children's pastors teaching the kids on Sunday mornings.
That's right.
And then you've got the various groups that are meeting throughout the week. Churches are just, they are content creating machines. But they often just let it, I don't know if you could say that it dies at the end of the week, but it just kind of goes to bed until next Sunday, with the exception of maybe putting on the website. You have a ton of content. You just got to be serious about doing something with it.
One of the biggest questions that we get at our ministry is, how do you produce as much content? And here's the secret sauce. I'm not hiding the ball here. It's the same thing over and over. One of the biggest guys I read a lot when I was first kind of starting the business is Michael Hyatt.
Yes.
And his book Platform.
Yeah.
That was the major thing that I learned from that book, is take one piece of content and distribute it in as many different ways or revenue streams as you possibly can.
Yep.
So one podcast episode or sermon is a blog post or multiple blog posts. It's an email. It's, it's social media posts. It's how many ways can I think of?
Right.
Everything that you can think of. And I not once have had anybody come in, we're almost 10 years old, come and say, wait a second, you said the same thing over here on this blog and this email as you did the podcast.
That's true.
Nobody ever says that. And mostly it's because people consume content in different ways and different times.
Yeah.
So even if they heard something on the podcast, they might see it again. Repurpose all day long.
You've got to, and you're right. Not everybody consumes content the same way. So if you limit yourself to putting your content on YouTube, that's great, but not everybody goes to YouTube, right, to watch content. Or if you limit yourself to, we're putting it on Facebook or the church website, that's all fine. But you've got to take the time. And it really, I think it comes down to a decision that this is important to me as a leader. It's important to our organization. And we're going to put the systems in place to make it happen. And I have found, Carl, that once you put the systems in place, yes, it's work every day, but it just, a lot of times the most difficult part is just getting the systems in place and figuring out how are we going to do it, and who's going to do it. Right. And then once the wheel's turning, it still requires work, but it's not terrible. And it's work. And even if it is a terrible amount of work, at the end of the day, especially as ministry leaders, aren't we all about getting the message out to as many people as we can, as often as we can, right?
But those are volunteer opportunities too.
Well, that's true.
Yes, we can use AI. Yes, there's tools that we can use, but hey, volunteer. Don't think like, oh, we just need people in the kids ministry or whatever.
Yeah.
Think like, okay, I could get a team of volunteers and all they do is chop up my sermon and put it on social media.
Yes, that's
You know?
exactly right. Yeah, huge volunteer opportunities.
Yep.
Even for kids. I mean, it's crazy what kids or teenagers can do to help.
Absolutely. Yep.
And they would love it.
They're going to know it better than you are too.
They are. Oh boy, there's a lot of ways we could go with this conversation. This is so good.
Yeah.
Carl, I'm curious, we both work with ministry leaders. You definitely work with them more in the area of video and content. What makes you cringe? You know, if you're going to visit a church and you're sitting there on Sunday morning, maybe you're on vacation, or you're on a church website, somebody tells you a story, what are a few things that just make you cringe when it comes to videos, when it comes to social media, maybe the way churches present themselves?
I think probably the biggest thing I'm seeing is a lot of churches are trying to do things as cheap as possible, which I can totally understand a budget, and I can totally understand not having some resources. I totally understand that. But I also want to say that, if you are going to McDonald's and expecting the results of Chick-fil-A, don't get so you don't have a big leg to stand on to be frustrated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you sometimes have to pay for Chick-fil-A to get Chick-fil-A, my pleasure. It's going to be better ingredients and it's going to cost you a little bit more. Let me give you an example. You're using PCs in your tech booth.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mac is made for video and is made for what you're trying to do here. Yeah, but we could get this computer for $600 and I would spend $1,800 on a Mac. There's no way we can afford it. Here's what I would rather you do. I would rather you hold at a holding pattern with where you are right now.
Yeah.
And do some fundraisers.
Yeah.
To get you to that $800 level. And let's buy the car that will get you down the road, as opposed to breaking down every mile marker. I'm not saying that PCs are the case every single time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just using that as an example of what makes me cringe is when people try to cut corners in areas that could make a bigger impact if they didn't cut corners.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the stuff in our space is getting so affordable. I mean, we produce a ready-made library for adults and kids where, and this isn't a sales pitch, but you can get graphics for $5, a video for $10 that looks great. So I don't think money is always the issue. I think sometimes I'm trying to cut the corner to try to save in every single area when I probably should need to, fundraise or be there. And I know that's weird coming from a guy who owns a production company. It sounds like I need you to spend money on me. It's really not.
That's it.
It's more like you could use Canva, but you realize that I love you, pastor, but you're great at pastoring. You're not great at design. So when you do your own PowerPoint slides, with all due respect and love, it looks like you've done your own PowerPoint slides.
Yeah.
And the church, especially visitors, are noticing.
No doubt.
And your visuals matter when it comes to reach. If you want to reach the people, here's a frustration that I have that also makes me cringe. How do we reach millennials and young families?
Yeah.
Is a question that I get constantly. Well, let's try to spend a little bit more in this area. No, I don't want to do that. That's $1,800 or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you just asked me how to reach millennials and young families. I'm telling you how to, just one way that we could try, and it's shut. I'm not saying that's the case I'm just using it as an example of cutting corners makes me cringe. I'm not saying that you need Ruth's Chris, but maybe let's do Chick-fil-A instead of McDonald's.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. And I have always been a firm believer that God honors excellence, and whatever you do, you do it in the name of the Lord. And if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing well. All these, cliches that we throw back and forth. I'm a big believer in doing things with excellence, and that, Carl, excellence does not, going back to your McDonald's, Chick-fil-A example, excellence does not have to mean extravagance.
No.
Carl, what would you say to someone who's watching or listening to the podcast today that is nodding their head, agreeing, realizing whether it's a children's ministry leader, whether it's a youth pastor, whether it's a lead pastor, realizing we need to step it up here. But what would you say to, how would you encourage someone that maybe wants to step it up, but they're at a small church? Maybe maybe there's only 50 people at the church and there really are limited funds, and maybe we don't have all the equipment that, larger churches have. What would you say to a small church leader that wants to do more? Where do you start?
I would say take baby steps. And if you can't do it, at least, let's say at a Chick-fil-A level, I would say I probably wouldn't do it yet. Meaning, if you don't have screens and, the technology to run those screens, then don't do screens, or let's figure out a different path. Maybe let's roll in a TV and use use something else, not YouTube, but maybe we use a Playlister. You know what I'm talking? There's an app called Playlister I'm good friends with. That's a web-based thing where you're just clicking through stuff.
Yeah,
you could use an Apple TV with a TV. I'm just saying you can use things. I would go step by step. Okay, we can't afford this yet, but we can afford this. I can't afford to have this VBS promo custom made.
Yeah,
but I can afford to buy a $10 video on this site. That I can show that would help me convey the same thing that I'm after.
Yes.
So I would say small bites. And don't think immediately we don't have the budget, we can't do it. Like, there are some paths. I'll give you an example here.
Okay.
When people come to us for custom work, there are kind of levels. Like, do you want a Cadillac, or, a big thing? Or, okay, if you don't have that budget, maybe we skin it this way, where it's like, maybe we create a template where we're dropping the same thing in every time. If you're good with that, it'll still look great, but that will save you money. So don't think right away we can't do. Like, I'd rather dream, and let's try to figure out how to do it together. And I think there's enough people in the space that we can help you get close.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. I think that is good advice. And, I would add to that as well. I'm sure you might feel alone, but I bet there's some other people in your congregation or on your ministry team that would love to see the church step it up in this area. And so don't try to figure it out yourself. Get a few people around the table and let's do what Carl said. Let's identify some baby steps. Let's improve. Doing things with excellence doesn't mean you've got it perfected. It just means I'm doing it better than I was doing it before.
Right.
And we are trying to improve and do everything as unto the Lord. Carl, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Before we jump into our closing 2 questions, I always like to ask at the end of the podcast, if you're not familiar, podcast listeners, viewers, if you're not familiar with 1230 Media, please go check it out. Carl, tell us, is it 1230media.com, right?
Yep, 1230media.com, all spelled out. We'll get
all
you there.
Spelled out. That's right. Spelled out, 1230media.com. Carl, I'm going to set you up. I'm going to tee you up here. Give us a 60-second pitch. When you go to 1230media.com, what are you going to find there? How can you and your team help?
Yes. So we do three things. One is a ready-made library of pre-produced content. So you can either get stuff a la carte, or you can do a subscription that'll save you.
Okay.
And it's pre-made content, from mini movies to countdowns to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Then custom. So ready-made is kind of the Walmart approach, or the more of the McDonald's, where it's right there for you.
Yeah.
And then the custom is more the Chick-fil-A. We're going to make it for you. It's going to be better ingredients, or ingredients only for you, meaning it's not going to be sent to other churches. So custom media for you. And we serve folks like you and Awana and Answers in Genesis and others. So ready-made, custom, and training. So we do a podcast and a blog to help people with creative ministry in the church. So those three areas.
And I would say, from somebody that, I've worked with you guys for a long time, don't think, and Carl, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but I would not at all think I can't do custom because I'm not a mega church, or I can't do custom because I don't have a big budget. Yes, it does cost more to do custom, but you don't have to break the bank necessarily to have something custom. Do you, Carl?
No, you don't. And man, we're ministry people. I mean, you heard my background, my story.
Yeah.
I understand being in a church, and before I served at two large churches, I served as a youth pastor at a really small church. My dad's been a pastor all my life at small churches. I totally understand the small church to big church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I say that to say our heart is relationship. And so when you come to us, we're going to work with you. Not just from a financial standpoint, but also from where we will walk alongside you to do ministry together, and try to figure out what you need, and even tell you, like, you might not need that. You might consider this instead.
Yes.
And it would actually save you money. Or, we might do something like that, where, like, if I was in the same as you, right? I mean, I didn't go into ministry for the money. If we did,
we messed up. Yeah,
we messed up. Yeah, but so yeah, it's we're ministry people, and we're relational. So yeah,
I love it, and I can vouch for that for sure. Y'all have a heart for ministry and pastors and leaders, and so make sure you connect with 1230 Media, Carl and his team. Carl, 2 questions as we wrap up. Number 1, love to hear from you. Your favorite Bible story and why?
I would say John the Baptist is one of my favorite. And here's why. Because I most relate to trying to prepare the way for Jesus, right? I'm not, we do a Bible study in the morning with our family. And so I have a 10 and 12-year-old. And so we're walking through John the Baptist. But I've shared this before, is John the Baptist prepared the way. I'm not Jesus. There's one at a super higher rank than me that I'm not even worthy to untie his sandals.
Yes.
It's my job to prepare the way. So in ministry, I don't do the life change. I'm setting the table for God to do the life change. I'm moving the pieces and hoping that, and praying that the Holy Spirit will show up big time. The dove will come down, and land. So I would say that's one that I really resonate with.
That's so good. All right. And then Carl, second, what is something big? And I'm excited to hear this. No pressure. Something big that Carl Barnhill is working on right now.
Okay. All right. This is for your listeners only. Okay.
Okay.
But we're working right now on a pretty big rebranding and like naming and rebranding of our whole ministry.
Oh, that's exciting.
So that's taken me, that's going to be a several months worth of work. So I don't really have a date on that yet, or anything, or too many details to share, but But we have some pretty big rebranding and refreshing and just kind of consolidation and stuff like that moving. So that's pretty heavy on me right now.
Man, that's great.
It's exciting too.
That's exciting stuff. It's also, I get it, very, very exhausting and labor intensive. So do you think by the Kids Matter conference?
I hope so. That's what we're really hoping for. I don't know if it'll be ready by then, but man, I would love to. I'd love to walk into Kids Matter and
that'd be awesome.
You look at me like, what is going on with what you've been working on, Carl?
Well, that's it. Carl, we are so thankful to have you guys with us at the Kids Matter conference. These last few years, you have helped us really elevate our main stage sessions with all of the on-screen graphics and videos. I don't feel like we could do it without you guys. You're great partners, and we're going to be in a new venue this year.
I'm excited, man.
It's going to be neat.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to World Outreach Church in Murfreesboro?
I have not. I've been, I get to Nashville several times a year, but I don't think I've been. Okay. I don't think I've been there, so I'm really excited.
It's a beautiful place. Can't wait for you to see it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Carl Barnhill, 1230media.com. Been a wonderful conversation. Carl, thank you for everything that you and your family and your team are doing to come alongside the church and help us do ministry better. You're doing a great job, and I know God's got great things in store for you and your company. So keep up the great work.
You're a great friend, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Thanks for being here.
This episode of the Ryan Frank Podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more conversations to help you stay on the leading edge. And if you like what you've heard, please rate this podcast with 5 stars. Thanks so much, and we will talk to you next time.